Welcome to this final policy event of the ENJOI project. My name is Michael Creek from Sticky Dot. It's a real pleasure to welcome you to this event as the local partner on ENJOI. Sticky Dot, we are a team working on co-creation around research and innovation, and we've been partners on ENJOI. It's a real pleasure to be together here on a sunny day. A surreal sunny day in October in Brussels. Doesn't happen often, especially considering 3 years ago we were starting the project in the middle of COVID. We hadn't met face to face for a long time as things were getting started, and it was at a time when we were really struggling to get our heads around the misinformation, the challenges of polarization in the media that were making our job as science communicators really more difficult than ever. So, as I say, it's a pleasure to see you all here 3 years on. Now that the ship of ENJOI has navigated its way through co-creation process, and we're here to share the outcomes and to think together about how these outcomes can be embedded in policy. So these are our objectives for today, our mission. We're going to be hearing about what came out of ENJOI and its relevance to policy. We're looking at open science as a broader framework for science communication at European level. We're going to have an open discussion about these challenges we face. It's a chance for us all to connect and to look to the future as well with the Coalesce European Competence Centre for Science Communication on the way. So we'll be hearing more about that later on. So here's how our agenda looks for today. So after a quick warm-up, we'll be exploring the final results. We'll be hearing from a state-of-the-art talk on open science and the Open Research Europe platform. We'll go straight into a roundtable where we're really delighted to welcome some fantastic speakers to explore in a little bit more depth. And then, of course, Sticky Dot wouldn't be involved if there wasn't some kind of participatory activity. We'll be opening the floor to all of you to hear your views on how we can embed great science communication in policy. And finally, we'll be hearing about Coalesce, the European Competence Centre for Science Communication, and then we'll be enjoying some lunch together. It's also a real pleasure to welcome people joining online. We're streaming this final event, just the presentations and the roundtable, and the open discussion then we'll just bring it back to the face-to-face group. So a couple of words on housekeeping before we get started. So we're really looking forward to hearing from all of you and some engaging discussions. A reminder that all experiences and perspectives are valuable. We want to make the most of the expertise and diversity in the room. We use Chatham House rules, so it means you're free to use and share what's said in this workshop, in the discussions, but we prefer that you don't reveal the identity or affiliation of the participants, so you can bear that in mind if you want to quote someone on social media. We ask you not to attach it to a particular person. As I say, we're recording this session. We'll be taking photos as well. If you prefer not to appear in any of the media, we're only using it for communication purposes, please let us know at the reception desk. It's no problem at all, so don't hesitate to let us know. There is Wi-Fi. It's the Visit Brussels network, and the password is BBrussels, all in small letters. It's at the back of the room. The bathroom is just out and to the left. Anything else? Yes, don't hesitate to communicate about this session with the hashtag SciComm and the handle at ENJOI Project. I think that's just about everything. I want to warm us up a little bit to get us in the frame of mind of participating. So I have a question for you. You will see you have red and green post-its. Can you take one each of each color? So take both a green and a red. That should be enough. And I have a question for you. So green is yes, and red is no. So I would like you to hold up the answer to each of my questions. So you should have one green and one red each. So my first question, have you had a coffee yet this morning? Green is yes, red is no. Okay, all right, I think only one uncaffeinated. Are you more of a tea drinker? Yeah, okay. It's good that we have a bit of both. More than one coffee? Double espresso counts too. Okay, so yeah, actually the majority has already had more than one, all right? More than two? Okay, nice. I was looking for the Italians, but yeah. So we're expecting some lively participation then with a bit of caffeine fueling us. So red for cats, green for dogs. Okay, I think the dogs have it, but it's close. It's okay. Yeah, we have some sitting on the fence, a bit of both. Okay, we've calibrated the machine. I think it's working well. So my questions are, my next question, are you a journalist?
Yeah.
Green is yes, red is no. It's again about a 50-50 split. Are you a science communicator? Yeah, and you can define this how you like. We have a majority of science communicators in the room. Do you work in policy? Okay, again, it's around a 50-50 split in the room. Okay, interesting. This is nice because this will help us explore from different perspectives. It's nice to see we have a nice mix in the room, as well as hopefully connecting online as well. Thank you very much for warming up. One last question. Does policy need to change to ensure great science communication? I mean, with a leading question like that, any red cards would be out the door. Okay, this is one thing I hope unites us, is that what we've seen in ENJOI and what we all, I think, feel deep down is that change needs to happen. There's an urgency to it. So I'm really happy that we're together with this mission in mind. And it's my pleasure to hand over to the captain of the ship, who's been steering us through the last 3 years. Who better than Elisabetta Tolla to coordinate the ENJOI project? She is a journalist with a passion for data and tech, a PhD in microbiology. Yeah, I should give you a full...
No, it's okay.
full credit. But also, okay, among many other titles, she's also the CEO of Formica Blue, who are the coordinators of the ENJOI project. And it's my pleasure to hand over to Elisabetta Tolla. A round of applause, please.
Thank you. Just that one. Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. Can I stand here so I won't interfere with the microphone? So, first of all, welcome you all. I'm extremely happy and quite moved by the idea that we are getting to the end of this long 3 years journey. Long, but very fast in a way. I'm looking to my partners in crime within the ENJOI crew. And 3 years ago, it was really just the beginning of this journey, and now we're finishing. And so it's really something that, in a way, brought us through a lot of work, but also it went very fast. Although these 3 years, Michael mentioned that before, I've also been the years where, of course, we went through the pandemic. I mean, we were writing ENJOI exactly at the beginning of the lockdown, the first lockdown, so you can imagine it was a perspective that was a little bit different from now. And it's also in the last couple of years that we're really coming to terms with the effect and impacts of the climate crisis, I think, in a more broad way. So people, the public, are also coming to terms with that. And also, the other big change, if we look into the science communication field, is that we are learning to deal and interact with the generative AI tools. Also, that is a big leap, and we are really making a lot of efforts to understand how these tools can integrate our work, whether they are going to disrupt it, or change it, or improve it, or whatever. So just 3 examples, I mean, they're not the only ones, of course, to say that we really need, it's really crucial to have good science information and to have reliable science information, also to take action to not only at the policy level, of course, the policy level is super important for us, but also at the local level, community level, and so on. So a few words about ENJOI. ENJOI stands for Engagement and Journalism Innovation for Outstanding Open Science Communication. We needed something cheerful. As I say, we were writing this proposal between January and April 2020, so you can easily imagine we really wanted to look ahead with something that was giving us a hope of improvement, of change, of positive change. ENJOI is the 8th of the SWOF 19 program, so it's the last baby of the cohort, let's say, and it's also the last one to get to an end. We actually work with some of the partners also in a previous project, which is New Sira, and we also been involved in some others. Also, these 8 projects have been collaborating a lot, and in fact, as Michael already mentioned, and we will see at the end of this morning, we are now also collaborating in a stronger way towards the next project, which is Coalesce, but more on that later. I just want to tell you a few of the main characteristics of ENJOI. Because it was the last one, we thought to try to find something different from what the other projects were exploring. And so we, first of all, looked at the world of journalism, not only because I come from that world, but many other people in the consortium are strongly worried and aware of the need to improve science journalism and journalism in general. That's something I really want to argue. It's not only a matter of improving the quality of science journalism, but in general to connect much more with the general journalism environment. Because of course, when we're talking about big issues like the crisis I was mentioning before, it's really also down to general journalists to cover those topics. And we need to find a better connection with the general information. We looked at engagement as a sort of a key asset of innovation. Engagement is being explored a lot in the field of investigative journalism, also as a way to support economically the possibility for investigative media to work in an independent way. So we thought it was an interesting asset to look also in the field of science journalism. Learning from the other project and also a lot from the New Sira project we were involved in, we decided to bring forward the idea of using co-creation throughout the entire project. I will tell you more in a minute, but really the idea was to get to the end of the project to co-produce with a number of stakeholders and users and producers of science communication a set of standards, principles, and indicators. You should say principles, standards, and indicators. Of course, the standards derive from the principles. Indicators are very useful to measure. We kind of found out that there aren't anything like that specifically already renowned and used throughout the world of journalism. So that's something we felt it was missing, and we thought it was interesting to produce it. And those standard principle indicators were going to be condensed, and they have been condensed into a manifesto. And then I will close a little bit explaining what the observatory is. So this is really the graphic depiction of the journey we took. I want to say that we didn't discard the traditional academic approach of doing research, so we did a lot of literature research, lots of interviews, lots of analysis of academic papers, but we also went into the world of practicing, which is, for many of us, the world where we actually act. So we did a lot of research also doing focus report, developing focus report, interviewing lots of experts, different experts in the fields of journalism, and coming up with a sort of an inception report of a possible list of principal standard and indicators that were then fed to the first round of engagement workshop. A workshop was held in each one of the countries of ENJOI. One thing I really need to say is that ENJOI was looking particularly, with particular interest, at the situation of the Southern European countries. This is also because our perception, which has been confirmed actually through these 3 years, is that the Southern European countries, as many other countries, like also some of the Central European countries, do not enjoy, and sorry for the joke, do not enjoy the same access to resources, the same strength in terms of independence media, the same possibility that media and in general the information environment enjoy in, for example, the northern countries. So we wanted to make sure that we could actually see that in practice and give practical indication how to improve the situation. So we used the engagement workshop in the 4 countries. We can say that we used the Belgium, we had Italy, Spain, and Portugal, and the Belgium situation a little bit as a benchmark of a Central European, Brussels-based situation. So each workshop was held and then was feeding the next workshop. So we adopted a cascade approach that was really basically using this what is called the agile approach, or whatever you want to call it. The point is that we go and we do a little bit of work and then learn from that, share among us, and then improve the next workshop, and so on and so forth, always adding a little bit of improvement. We did engagement workshop, 4 of them got to a long list of principal standard and indicators. Then we had an internal consensus workshop. We then condensed those in a manifesto. And then, again, in collaboration with the New CIRA project, we decided to go through 4 labs that were actually aimed at specific stakeholders. So we had, for example, a lab for citizens in Italy, a lab for journalists in Spain, a lab for researchers in Portugal, and a lab for policy makers and funders here in Belgium. So again, all of those SPI have been reviewed and integrated and changed, and we got to the end where we have a list of SPI. But during the workshop and the labs, we also asked our stakeholders to give us ideas and to start co-designing innovative tools that were considered by them very useful for the work they do in their capacity. This is more or less the same. I just want to point out really the importance of a circular approach, of the fact of having an engagement approach which was not only towards the external world, but also internally, to have continuously like this improvement through rounds of consultation. And that's true for the workshop and also for the labs. So we end up with a final list of principles, standards, and indicators. I will go that in a minute, that have been condensed in a manifesto. The manifesto is there. You can actually read it. I want to point out that, of course, a manifesto for high quality or outstanding open science communication cannot only explicitly say new things. There are a number of guidelines that should be already totally in place. They should be respected by people who work in the information environment, and they're not. So even, for example, diversity of sources and finding independent sources, these things that should be the common practice, they're not the common practice. Our analysis of the media within ENJOI show that very often, for example, even legacy media, even big media, tend to use always the same expert, not necessarily a diverse range of experts. So we decided to deepen the roots and reinstate some of these principles, particularly for those young journalists who are still in training, or the people who do content production and have never gone through a formal journalistic training, for example. But then we're bearing new fruits, and we decided to push like the focus on certain characteristics, certain key aspects that came out from our labs. So one is try to apply the open science throughout and to have a real open science, open access approach in the entire cycle of information production. There was a lot of interest towards making diversity and inclusion a real thing, not to just put them as a flag, but to really try and be strong in developing policies and attitudes, practices within the media ecosystem to make sure that diversity and inclusion are real values. So this is the manifesto you can find there. We also have the list, the final list, final to now, because we said it's a continuous work, but you know, this is actually the best that we could do up to now, which is the list of principles, standards, and indicators. You have some copies on the tables. Of course, all of these materials are on the website as well, and they can be easily downloaded. But more importantly, I think, for our day today, we also came up with a number of very specific recommendations that are divided into 4 domains, 4 areas. So the first one, again, it's focusing a lot on how to bring forward engagement, inclusion, and diversity. Here you have only a very summarized version. The long version of these are printed, and there are some copies available that we can then, here on the tables, that you can consult, and they are also, of course, going to be fed into our final policy brief, which we are still preparing. Diversity is the best peaceful weapon against polarization and discrimination. This is not something I wrote. It's something that came out from many of the workshops we did with our diverse stakeholders. I also want to add, because I didn't say that before, it's very important, we didn't want to have all of this work done only for the people who are actually producing content or the people who are working as professionals in the field of science communication or journalism. We wanted the SPI, the manifesto, and then the entire output of ENJOI to be useful also for the people who consume information, that very often have the need to see how to navigate in the overload of information they are basically trying to survive with. So we thought that this kind of indication can be also useful for someone who needs to select sources, to select type of information. So, for example, the issue of diversity is really important when we need to see that throughout applied, like having media that are responding to the requests from diverse communities, diverse culture, and bring them in the process. So listen to their readers or listeners and apply diversity as a guiding principle, not only, as I say, as a flag. The fact of having an engagement strategy in the whole life cycle of information. This is particularly interesting if we compare that again with the investigative journalism world, because there, this is happening much more. It's also a need, because of course you need to have a lot of people, for example, to test your hypotheses or to verify information on the ground. But I do think we could also benefit from that type of approach in our field of science journalism and communication. Adopt the lens of intersectionality, be very sure that we understand exactly the sum or the integration of causes that make more difficult for some people than for others to access information and to access, in general, the realm of science education and science communication. Deal with the impact of colonialism on scientific ecosystem. This is something where we're struggling a lot at, but particularly younger generations are really very vocal about that, because obviously we're still portraying an idea of the science ecosystem as a very neutral one, but it is actually an ecosystem that has a very long history, and we need to recognize that and try to go forward. And explore more solutions and approaches enabling people to act. I'll go a little bit faster on the next recommendation, so open science and open access. We will have more on that in a minute with Alexandra Abda, but we do think that the big value really would be to make the entire process open. So for example, to have the open data by rule in any institution. We had a huge problem in Italy with the data during the entire COVID pandemic, and yet now they're not available. So even the major institutions didn't put those data in an open data fashion. So it's really important to keep really working on transparency, maybe even force it by asking all the platforms to have a code for transparency, or like to make sure that they actually describe this, their process and grant transparency. We have a lot of indication for training and capacity building. This is also going to feed into the Collège project, so I won't spend a lot of time here, but it's extremely important that we look at journalism in general, not only in science journalists, that we connect with the journalism school that even now do not have any science training at all, in many of our countries at least, this is the reality. And for example, also to have lifelong high quality training for journalists, because it's not only the entry point, especially when we're dealing with such an innovative environment with new technologies. We need to have people to really learn how to use these things, even when they are midlife, mid-career, and so on. Supporting a possibility for mutual collaboration. I know also today we will be talking about an ERC project that is just started and is going to foster, for example, e-residence program. I think this is extremely important and still too rare. Local communities, we had a focus on local communities. This is something we really feel a lot. There is so much input put on when we talk about impact, about big numbers, quantitative measurement, but there are lots of communities that are small, they will never make the big numbers, and yet they need someone to gather information needs for them, good information for them. So we need also to make sure that we give indication that you might measure impact even when you're catering to small, marginalized communities. You don't get big numbers, but you get a change. And I think that's really important. So again, it's not mine, this is the ENJOI, the final ENJOI recommendation. It's really to look at scaling, replicability with a very careful eye. They are very important values, but they're not always the only way to go. Sustainability, that's a big issue. Again, in Collège, we're already dealing with that, and we will discuss that forward. But again, we need to get some support also to smaller projects that lack, for example, structural funding. All the independent media are struggling a lot in that sense because they don't get the possibility to be supporting that way. And you end up looking for money in the private sector, where obviously then you have to deal with conflict of interest and sometimes not necessarily transparent interaction. Okay, all of our results are available on Zenodo. We did that from the first day, basically. So we have all the publication and all the data already published in the ENJOI SHICOM community in Zenodo. And finally, on the observatory. The ENJOI Observatory was designed and thought from the beginning as a virtual platform where we could have 3 points of access to 3 activities, very practical for people who work in science, journalism and information. One possible activity of networking, so getting all the information about possibilities of networking, but also fostering the birth of collaborative activities. Reference, so of course, all the literature and resources that can be useful, and toolbox. As I mentioned, we came up to the end with 8 prototypes of tool, and we are going to put them, some of them are being validated, so they will be available, but we are also scavenging the world for useful tools that can be used by our colleagues. The ENJOI Observatory will, I'll just go to this one, sorry, and I'll come back, no? I wanted to go to this one, sorry. The ENJOI Observatory will actually find a continuous life in Coalesce, so we're going to discuss within the Coalesce Consortium how to keep it and how to evolve it in order for it to be useful within the Coalesce Consortium. We're going to have a final conference in Bologna because we never had a chance to host our consortium. And we want to do that. We want to have all of our colleagues at home with us for once, at least. So we're going to have another final conference, which will be more based on journalism. So it's going to be a conference where we will share our final result, but we will also have a lot of international journalists, not from the science domain, but from other journalism area. And we have started a newsletter, so you're all invited to subscribe to our newsletter, and the newsletter will continue also beyond the end of the project. And finally, I really want to thank you, the consortium. There is one partner missing here, which is ACCC, Associación Catalana de Comunicación Científica. It's the only time we could meet all together. And it was in Barcelona in a joint event with the New Sira project last November. So here are most of the partners, the 6 partners. I just want to conclude saying the consortium itself is particularly peculiar because there are 3 SMEs in ENJOI. So Formica Blu is an agency of science communication. Science for Change and Sticky Dot also are 2 companies working a lot in the field of participatory methodologies and participatory tools and research. And then we have the Catalan Association of Science Communication, so practitioner. And then we have the University of Twente and F-Ciencias that are 2 academic partners, although we can say F-Ciencias is academic, but it's also very practical because it's a foundation in the interface, again, with the companies. And I think this gave ENJOI a very practical character, a very much focus on the practice type of character. But I really want to thank all my colleagues because I think that it was a pleasure and a privilege to be in a consortium of people so strongly engaged and so enthusiastic and very active, so we never had to ask someone to do something. I mean, it was always very, very much of a proactive attitude. I know that looking at that you don't see much diversity, but I can tell you that there is a lot of diversity you don't see, but it's actually inside this group. So thank you very much for being here, and to all of you. Okay, so now with this set on the table, I welcome Alexandra Ebda, Policy Officer at the DG Research and Infrastructure at the European Commission. She's been also interacting with us in the last few years a lot, promoting a lot of the open science policy, and I'm very, very happy and pleased to have you here, Alexandra.
Hello,
okay.
my name is Alexandra Hebda. I'm the...
There.
Yeah, I'm the policy assistant in the Open Science unit, which is now called Open Science and Research Infrastructure. Some of you have already seen this presentation, so I won't be reading my slides. So in a school, they teach us to be creative, do not use the same wording. In the Commission, I've learned you need to stick to the wording that is, that is in the work program. So I would like to be creative, but I can't. So I need to stick to the wording that was negotiated within the hours with the very clever people. So I will be not reading. So why we are promoting societal engagement? It's mainly really about the trust of a society in science. That's the clue. And of course, this presentation you can get it from the organizers. So it's not need to. It's again about trust, about building trust, and about transparency in science. Yeah, we have some learning from the COVID-19 pandemics, how crucial it was to communicate the science. Again, this is a wording from the work program, so I need to stick to this, how we understand science communication. Why this is important. So we have, this is again from the already document that exists. Yeah. This is from the European research area. So the ambition of the Commission is how we create a common market for economy. We would like to create the same common market for research. And that's the highest ambitions that we have. So we would like to have this good collaboration and this continent-wide competition. And I think in this all, science communication plays a role. And here I would like to come back to something very concrete that we've done, because communicating science is also communicating very concrete results of the project. So we have taken, this was our first attempt, we have taken science communication projects, we put them all together in a nice format, and it's called Cordis Results Pack. It's done by the European Commission Publication Office. And this was the first one that we've done, and it's now I think it's more views, but I do not have the latest statistics. But the story is that this was translated into 6 languages. This is the offer that the Publication Office does. And there was such a high interest that without telling us, they have translated this into all 23 official languages, and they've sent it around to the all European Commission delegations in all member states. And apparently it was very successful, and we're very proud of it. And I must say we're a little bit ashamed that we were not proactive pushing for this, but it happened just like this. So we've done the same for the science communication. So there is again this Cordis Results Pack. When we have all these 8 projects that I had a privilege to supervise. So there was a under Horizon 2020 in SWAFS 19. There was a funding, and 8 projects were founded. And as Elizaveta said, this is the last one from the 8, but there is a continuation under Horizon Europe. There was another funding open, which was Weidera 60 for the European Competence Center for Science Communication, and this is a coalition project that has started in April last year, and it will be running for 4 years. And this project is built out of the 8 projects that were already funded, and this is something that we really wanted to see, because what is happening to us, it's that sometimes we get proposals, they're very good, but they're very similar to something that has been already done and founded a few years ago. And because we are very careful with the public money, the question is why we should found something really similar, but just made slightly different with a slightly. So what we wanted to see is that the results are taken and somebody is building on those results and not reinventing the wheel, but slightly different or in slightly different context. What is going on with this results pack? This is the publication office. After I think 1 year of the publication, they are reopening and asking the project, do you have more results? If yes, please tell us, and we will update this publication. And this is something really nice, and we really appreciate a lot, because we're super busy, and sometimes we publish something and we never come back. And we have no time to open, to read it carefully, to add more, to make it more substantial. And at the time, there were projects like yours. They were at the very beginning, so logically they couldn't have much results. Now the situation is different, so I really encourage you to be in contact. There is an email sent. There is a journalist team that is writing this, so to update this publication. Doesn't work? We're stuck here? Yeah, no, we are not. Yeah, this is again what we have in a Horizon Europe. Again, I won't be reading this text. Where do I need to, oh, sorry. I would like to come back. Yes, so this is again a hook for us. So for us, it's very important that we are recognized somewhere in a formal way. So this is European Research Area Policy Agenda, and in the Action 14th, there are several points, and one of this is talking about the public understanding, education and training, and the general is calling bringing science closer to citizens. And under this action, we also have, for example, young scientist competition. So that's another way of how we think practically science could be brought closer to citizens. Yes, and I wanted to update you about the Open Research Europe, but I'm not sure I can, because we are in the very delicate moment when things are under embargo. So what I can promise is that as soon as we have a publication and all this announcement, I will send it to you, and I will tell you what is going on. So basically, I can explain what is our logic. So we have researchers here, yes? So the publications market and everything was criticized for years, how it's going on, how you have to pay, how are the paywalls. So Commission heard all that, and as a positive solution, we propose that we will build our own alternative. So it will be a publication platform where everything will be transparent, especially all the costs, how, because you cannot learn how much it costs to put a PDF on the website, yeah? So, we secure money. There is a subcontractor that is doing this for us. So if you are grant holder for the European Commission in Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe, and you have some results that you would like to publish, and we encourage not only articles, but also other kind of outputs, you can do it with us. And this is a cost-free, because European Commission takes care of a budget, and it's fully transparent, and it's easy, and it's done in a way that there is a full compliance with all the open access and everything that we ask for. So this is an offer. There was a big controversial when we started. People were thinking that it's obligation. No, it was never obligation. This is an offer, and we also realized that there are many outputs that have been left without any publication, because again, there's no time, there's no energy, and here you can publish everything even after the funding has been finished. So this is what we have, and after several years, there is now an indexation, so something that researchers were asking for, and like from the very beginning, we couldn't offer any impact factor. Now, Aura is indexes in Scopus, and is indexes in, what is the name of this? It's a Swedish big databases for the open access journals. Yeah, I think it's a database, it's open access journals. And what I also have to say, what works really, really well is a social media for Open Research Europe, because there is a professional team behind it that produces, before it was called tweets, I don't know how this is called now, a post, every day. So they really take care of this in a super professional way. So I would like to encourage you to follow Open Research Europe on X platform and on other social media, because they are really producing lots of materials and they're very professional in it. And for the rest, there is discussion about the future of ORE. And I can say that we were trying to secure funding and develop it more, but more news to come. And I think this is it from me. Thank you so much.
If you have quick questions or some questions, because Alexandra is also not...
Question, or maybe during a coffee break.
Or maybe during the coffee break. If there are some quick questions now, we can take them. No, Michael? Quickly. No, we proceed, but Alexandra is going to be here until almost the end of the morning, so... Okay. Yeah? Okay, so we can now go into the next step of the morning program, but I think we need... Oh, there, perfect. Okay, we ask 4 experts in the field to come with us and to have, to share with us their points of view, opinions, experiences. So I'm calling to the table Giampaolo Accardo. He's a journalist, co-founder and executive editor of Vox Europe, and co-founder and chief editor at the European Data Journalism Network. Thank you, Giampaolo, for being here. Vitalba Crivello, science policy and communication expert at the European Science Media Hub at the Euro Parliament. Thanks, Vitalba. Welcome. Mohamed El-Sunvati Ramadan, co-founder of the Arab Forum of Science, Media and Communication and vice president of the Public Communication Science Technology Network, the PCST. Thank you. Thank you, Mohamed, for being here. And Daniela Ovadia, journalist, director of the Center for Ethics in Science and Journalism, and partners of the, she's one of the partners of the ERC Frontiers Project, and we will, the one I mentioned before, we'll talk. Thanks, Daniela, for being here. So before we start our conversation, I asked them to be with us because we wanted to bring the point of view of people who are in diverse type of media and communication environment, in different type of organizations, but all sharing some of the common problems or views that we have pointed out before. So maybe we could go a very quick round. I ask you to really be like 3 minutes each or less, where you tell us a word about, you know, your organization or the major process. I know that for some of you it's difficult, like Daniela is shared between projects, but our focus today maybe is the ERC project, so they look forward. So maybe, Giampaolo, we can start with you, if that's okay. The EDJNet was, we can probably say, I met Giampaolo a few years ago because of the common passion and look at for the data journalism, and
I'm not sure. Oh, yes, it's working.
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elisabetta. Yeah, we've been knowing each other for quite some years now, but that doesn't make us old.
No.
So basically, my organization, Vox Europe, is, as Elisabetta said, a multilingual website that deals with European news. By European, we don't mean linked to the EU, but European as a cross-border, more as a cross-border topics. We mostly focus on climate change, democracy, migration, and I always forget the fourth topic, but it's never the same, so if it comes back, I'll tell you. And we are also part and co-founders of several networks within Europe, journalism networks. The most interesting here would be the European Data Journalism Network, which is a network of more than 30 media from all over Europe, mostly mid to small size one, and who collaborate in doing journalism cross-border European issues, but through the prism of data. And this is also why we are rather connected to, maybe not directly scientists, but our work is quite close to dissemination of scientific topics. The last one we've been treating is the pollution, air pollution from 2.5 particulate matter all through Europe. And we couldn't have done this story without the research that lies underneath. I guess that's it. We'll
Thank you. That's perfect. Yeah, it's just to give some initial frame. Vita.
So, hello, this is Vita. I'm very happy that I have the chance to represent the European Science Media Hub here. So what we do is we are sitting in the Parliament, in the European Parliament, notably in a panel that is called STOA. That's the Panel for the Future on Science and Technology. And we were born 5 years ago with the idea to bring into the policy context, of delivering policy in science and innovation, especially with the new technologies and the continuous changes coming in, to bring the media into the scene. So what we do, actually concretely, we have a web page, sciencemediahub.eu. We organize trainings for journalists because we have a strong focus on journalism. We try to bring science journalism into the picture. And when the pandemic allows us, we started in 2019, then we had a break. We organized these trainings, bringing journalists from all Europe, offering them the opportunity to come here or to Brussels or to go to Strasbourg, or also we did in the member states, to learn not about the parliament, so we do not promote the parliament, we promote what's going on at the level of different policies. So just to give you an idea, we did something on AI, we did something on climate change, we follow a lot because we also try to study the phenomenon of disinformation, to try to improve the quality of science communication in general. And so this is what our core business is, indeed working on science journalism. And then I'm very happy to be here. We can share some insight about this.
Thank you, Vitalba. Mohammed.
I'm Mohammed. I'm originally from Egypt, so I think I might be the only non-European here. So I'm the Vice President of the Public Communication of Science and Technology Network. PCST is one of the oldest and largest networks in science communication and science journalism. We were established more than 30 years ago. Now we have around 800 members from 66 countries. And yeah, we do a lot of activities related to networking, especially between practitioners and researchers. So that's one of our main goals, to promote the collaboration between two aspects. Most of our members coming from both directions. We usually have a lot of activities like the biannual conference. The last one was this year in Rotterdam, 2 hours from here. On another aspect, I'm also the co-founder of the Arab Forum of Science, Media and Communication. So it's a kind of a digital platform for networking and the professional development in science, media and science communication in the Arab world as first of its kind. We were established 3 years ago now during the COVID as a response of the increasing interest in science, journalism and communication in the Arab countries.
Thank you, Mohammed. And Daniela. Let me just take these bottles.
Okay.
Sorry.
I am Daniela Ovadia. I am the scientific director of the Center for Ethics in Science and Journalism. It's a non-profit research center that was built actually by a group of journalists. Some of us have also academic roles. So I am a professor in ethics of research, but I'm also a science journalist and other journalists, because we felt that we needed an environment to do some meta-research on ourselves that was outside of the academic world. And we had a lot of issues in doing this kind of research that has a practical impact in the academic world. We are very happy because the project we wrote for the ERC was selected, and we are very grateful to the ERC and to the reviewers because they probably understood that what we wanted to do was something that was a bottom-up. What's the Frontiers project? Actually, I think the aim of the ERC was to offer the science journalist community in Europe the opportunity to have fellowships and spend a quite large amount of time, from 3 to 6 months in a lab, to have an in-depth knowledge of a specific scientific field. We focus actually on the most complicated science to disseminate or to explain or to share, which is the frontier science, the basic science, the one that is farthest from a practical application. This is the idea. But we are grateful for this selection because our idea when we wrote this project was what we call the cross-pollination, using a term that is very familiar to those who are involved in projects. Because we also think that that having a journalist, and let's say in your lab or in your institution, is also a way to change the way you do science. So this was the idea behind our project, that has a lot of common activities, from courses to interaction between scientists and journalism, and also a very strong research background. We didn't want to organize, to be clear, a travel agency for journalists. Because this is something that we already saw in the past. A lot of institutions offer grants or fellowships just because they want to have some kind of PR activities. This is not the aim of our project. The aim of our project is really to analyze, study with also sociological tools what are the actual needs of the journalistic community, of the institution we will work with, and at the end of the society. So why we are doing this and which kind of impact we can have on the final goals. So this is more or less the idea behind the Frontiers project.
Thank you, Daniela. So I see we have really very diverse range of experiences, and yet also experiences that bring forward a number of challenges. So my first question will be really focusing a little bit on the challenge. If you have to name one or two very concrete challenges that you would like to see change, or something where policy or funding could support and make a difference in terms of bringing forward innovation. So we focus on innovation, see how that can be supported or improved in the situation you work in. Maybe we start again from Gianpaolo? No, whoever wants. Who wants to start? Vita. I see your face.
So challenge, right?
A challenge that can be overcome by some...
No, I will be very straightforward. So the challenge here in Brussels, in the Brussels bubble, is that, okay, it's clear by now that science communication, science journalism are critical, are important. They need to work close hand in hand with policy, but, you know, there are moments in which this is not really, let's say, it's understood, it's not kept in mind. So there are kind of waves. So the real challenge, and I mean, being myself involved in policy and science communication for a while here in Brussels, I really see it's not the innovation, but it's the culture that we really need to change. So it's regular for us that we all work in the same direction. We always encounter the same issues. So it's excellent what you do, what you produce. So some politicians will tell you, okay, this is great, but the next step will be to keep it in mind and keep going. You know, and so I think this is the real challenge in the public institutions that I'm representing here. Of course, I have different ideas on the private part, but this is more, you know, it's cultural also related. We have seen that in different countries in Europe is different. I cannot speak about, you know, outside of Europe, but it's good that you focus, sorry, I don't want to be long, but I just want to close the point. It's really important that you focus on the south of Europe, on the southern European countries, because we also in the hub, we went to some member states to approach the culture of journalism, of science journalism, to see what are their needs and what is the situation there. And it's completely different landscape from Spain to Italy or Portugal to Germany or the Netherlands or France. I cannot really talk about because actually we do not have many contacts, unfortunately. With them, it's a kind of, restricted community, but the perception is that the support, the political support is different. So in Spain, there is a great community on science journalism and science communication collaborating. In Italy, you can say more than me because I've been here for a while. So the challenge is that the concept of the understanding keeps going. So it's good to have continuous innovations, continuous projects, the public funding keep going, but there is something missing to make it really sustainable and, really work and to change the culture, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks, Vitalba. Who wants to go next? Daniela.
Okay, what can a policy change? I will be very practical. As a science journalist, I am a consultant and editor-in-chief of an American company writing for medical journalism, so for professionals. This month, half of our editorial staff has been replaced by artificial intelligence for the summaries of the news. So actually to summarize peer-reviewed papers. So if we keep on putting money in science journalism to train the science journalist to summarize the research of a scientist, there's no future. This is a job that will be replaced by someone else. What can we really bring and how can we change the policy? We really have to focus on what a machine won't be able to do, which is the interaction with the world of science on one side and the world of the citizens on the other side. So we have to change the culture. I am also the work package leader of an university alliance. And I fight every day with my university because they don't understand that science communication, it's not public relation. So this is my main issue. And I keep on saying that the role of a university is exactly to bring on board the journalists that can be critical towards science, that can really change the way we do science in order to be more effective for the society. And the trust is built through a collaborative designing of science, and journalists can be a key point in this ecosystem. They are not, of course, every time I explain this to scientists, the answer is, oh, you want to design the project instead of me. No, but I want to bring the societal issues so you are aware of them, and I want to report on your outcomes in the light of the societal issues. This is what we can do, and what we can do by policy and by training. If we keep on teaching our students in science journalism how to write a piece, ChatGPT is better than us.
Thank you, Daniela. Very clear. Who wants to go next? Gianpaolo.
So I don't totally agree with you on one point, which would be training. I think it's still useful to train science journalists. And even more, we saw that we really need journalists who can understand science. Look at the COVID crisis. I mean, the public opinion didn't know anything about the virus, and they relied on the media, possibly legacy media, before going to conspiracy media. And for having proper journalism in such a critical topic, you need journalists who are able to communicate the science in a way that is understandable by the public. But for this, they have to know the topic, or at least to know how to deal with the scientists who are working on this topic. So I think training, or even helping recruiting science journalists or journalists who can deal with the scientists for the non-specialized media is quite critical. There are a few grants around for that, but often they are not very well known, and also journalism organizations are not always aware of them. So I guess they might get some, they might use some help in getting to know those grants. Yeah, basically this would be my policy recommendation on journalism and the real innovation, apart from some technical aspects or getting to AI, generative AI for producing content, which is, as you said, not very much to the core of the job. I think it could be part of the training, getting used to using generative AI to produce the content, but then you have to make it clear for the public, and you also have to have some back and forth, some feedback with the scientists who have produced the initial research.
Yeah.
So that it's the news flow is not only one direction from the scientists to the journalists and then to the public, but there is a bit of back and forth between the journalists and the scientists, at least to be sure that the final product is absolutely clear.
Mohammed. Yeah.
Just very briefly, you're absolutely right. The problem is that the media company do not want this back and forth because it's expensive. So actually, this is exactly what I'm saying. We are saying the same thing. I mean,
yeah, I think so.
Expensive and time-consuming, which are the two main hurdles that news organizations have to deal with.
That's where support to independent journalism can make the difference. So, yeah, Mohammed.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to take your question a little bit back, like about how innovation in science communication and science journalism is defined exactly. Because it's a little bit tricky, because usually this is done by researchers. They can have some feedback from practitioners. Sometimes they collaborate with each other, sometimes not. And sometimes what can be described as an innovative science communication journalism in one country cannot be described as innovative in another. I've mentioned earlier about the differences inside Europe, south of Europe, Eastern Europe, or Western Europe. And of course, if you look at a global perspective, it is completely different. So how we are defining innovation is really a critical point. This is one thing. I was very happy to see in the SPIs developed through these projects that there was emphasis on having non-Western perspective, because I think this is really important. If it's European, that doesn't mean it is global, and if it's Western, that doesn't mean it's universal. We have to take care of that. For example, we are thinking about what policy can make to promote or enhance these kind of innovations. But there are a lot of non-democratic countries that actually policy don't work. I mean, usually when I translate policy making in my mind to Arabic and think about it, I find this very confusing. I mean, it's really, I cannot deal with that in a normal way. So we need to ask ourselves how these innovations are defined. And the second and main challenge also, like, how can this be communicated? How to communicate the science of communicating science? Because researchers publish, practitioners, we are not really reading papers about science communication. So we need this kind of more collaboration between practitioners, researchers in a really dialogic approach, more global approach, to define what is innovation and how this can be communicated.
Thank you. I think all of your insights are really super important and useful, strengthening and actually even building on each other, because they strengthen the idea that we really need to look for not necessarily using these flags of innovation throughout, or as I said before, impactful. We use these words a lot. We need to be much more careful in a way to look into the situations and define how that particular situation can be changed. Okay, the next point I want to touch with you is that of sustainability, because we have been discussing that in many different environments, of course, in the science, journalism, and communication environment, but for example, in the investigative journalism, that's the topic we've been discussing for the last few years. Gianpaolo and I share some common networks, and that's the big issue for journalists who want to be independent, small media who want to be independent, how to become sustainable. When we started the project, we were looking at the possibility of having engagement as one of the key points, not necessarily the only one, of course, but there are a number of membership models, for example, in investigative journalism that are interesting to look at. So the community being involved in the production of journalism and the production of content is also a community that might be happy to support economically that particular media. But it's not obviously the same for everybody, and also there are situations where in countries, we know, for example, in Italy, that kind of a mechanism is really not working very well. Can give a little bit of support, but it's not really working very well. And so I wonder, from your point of view, again, which could be the main or the key measures that could be applied or designed to go towards the road to sustainability, which I know it's a huge challenge. I'm not asking you for a response that's going to solve all the problem, but I would be very curious, and we are very curious to hear your point of view on this, because a lot of experimentation is taking place, but who wants to start? That's a big one. Gianpaolo or Mohamed. Yeah, I saw you going on the...
I think a mistake that we keep doing when we ask these kind of questions, that we look back and reflect. And I think we are in a critical moment where science communication journalism is hugely changing because of the example of the AI. So this time we need to be really proactive. We need to think of the future. So rather than just think about sustainability, just to maintain what we are doing now, no, we need to think, okay, how it will be in the future and how we can deal with that. I think this is, I would say, my main point of view regarding this. Think proactively.
Proactively, yeah. Gianpaolo, or Vita, I saw you were going to the...
Yeah, well, sustainability is something we have to deal every day when you're an independent news organization. You mentioned membership. Membership is, of course, the holy grail of sustainability for a news organization, but very few ones have reached this, and they have to develop other sources of revenues. The problem with membership is that you might keep small, and if you're a scientific publication or a publication that is dealing, let's say, more mainstream, but dealing essentially with science, you might be kind of pigeonholed or considered as a very specifically scientific one, and then you won't be able to get a wide membership. Grants are a good solution, but every grant is a kind of one shot. It's a grant for one single investigation. It works for it, but it's not really a business model. What we've developed to get a bit more sustainability is syndication. So you produce something, but then you sell it to other media. You syndicate it to other media, and it brings you a bit of revenue. And if you're identified as good at doing something, then you can become a regular provider of content to other media. And the last one would be what we call services, meaning you can provide services different from single stories to other media or NGOs or scientific organizations. It can be translation, it can be copy editing, it can be producing a story from scratch for those organizations. And this can be part of your business model. And good point is that it's usually fresh money and not something that you have to wait for, like grants until the end of the year, or that is paid in tranches. So there are several sources of revenue that can help sustainability, but there is no magic wand or comprehensive solution for everyone.
Daniela?
Yeah, I don't have an answer, because I work in a service that works, as you said. We provide contents and we syndicate a lot and we write. But what I see is that there is, at least in Southern Europe, less and less interest from the classical media. So we used to provide contents for the main Italian media and dailies. and they are simply not interested anymore. They have their own idea on how this topic has to be covered, mostly using very cheap sources like press releases, copied and paste, and so on. So we know this. From the model of the more I work in this field, the more I think that something has to come from public money if we really want to keep science communication and science journalism available to the public. But it's tricky because it's still an issue from many points of view, from the political point of view to the influence or whatever. I mean, and it works only in specific environments. What we will do in our projects to support this kind of fellowship, which is training, if you want, is that we have a whole work package where we will analyze the sustainability of the model. So we would like to really map possible sources to support this project on the long run. And the first thing that the first institution that came to our mind is really to go and to the scientific institution and say, you need to have this kind of communication to keep on doing your job, which is research. So let's see if they will hear our call or not. We don't know. Maybe we will have different feedbacks from different countries. But yes, I think that the holy grail is that policy looks at the world of science, of journalism in a very old way. Like if the old publisher were already there, still there with their money and open to independent journalism. The more I work in this field, at least in my country, the more I realized that there is nothing more like the publisher when I started working 30 years ago. This doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. Half of the contents I see in dailies, newspapers, I know that they are paid by someone who wants to be this news to be covered. So this is really an issue. We lack of the industry. So I don't know. Yeah. This is my answer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, then I'll give the floor to Vital. But we recently had in Italy, in the last couple of years, there is a monitoring of legacy media and like general newspapers with regard to the topic of greenwashing, which is huge, of course. And we have seen that more and more, that the major newspapers don't cover issues that relate, the climate crisis in a very proper way, or they actually put forward a lot of content which is totally greenwash, and that's because there is one major company that is paying a lot. And it's really important to say that, because it goes back to the point I was making before about the fact that when we want impact and numbers, of course we need to publish on those kind of newspapers to officially say that we have a large audience. But that type of content is not necessarily granted as being independent, and is actually very often tweaked to please hidden interest. So I think that's something we need to know in order to actually work and improve the transparency we were talking about. Vitalba.
So again, being here representing a public institution at the European level, I would say that for sustainability, it's I can make a concrete example. We were born to be a project that is long-lasting, like the hub. We are not a science media center. We do not do the same job as they do in Germany, as they do in the UK, as they do in the recently born in Spain, in Australia, and all the others that I might have missed now. The point is that I come back again to people. Why? Because, okay, even if we have the funding, even if we have understood the importance of providing this funding for science journalism to flourish, to improve, to keep on going, we encounter on a daily basis a lot of challenges. I like call them challenges, issues, political, cultural, and so if you do not have a community of people engaged to keep on going, you cannot do anything disruptive that will last. You cannot do anything that your impact will get lost in a while. It's like, I really see it with us, because you have to find a way to adapt as far as the situation changes. So some of you are journalists, I'm not, but I see that there are also different requests. So for instance, when we were born, we were asked, why you don't provide grants? Say, no, we think that is better. Why you do trainings for journalists? Are you promoting the parliament? No, so we proved it. You've been involved in some of our events. Maybe some of you already know what we do, but okay. Point is that we really need to be there and keep on working. So for me, it always comes back to people. And to just briefly touch upon AI, generative AI, during our summer school in June, we also talk about that because we had a summer school on science, communication, science, journalism, so I'm trying to train, and Jason was there, trying to train young journalists on science communication in general. Of course, we touch about the use of ChatGPT. And we kept on saying, by the way, Luca De Biase gave the training, saying, okay, the machine can help you. The world is changing. Innovation will come, disruptive innovations will keep on going, but you still have to use your brain. You still have to, it's always people. For me, it always comes back to people. So solution would be that EU funding, we all work already, I think, all in the same direction, but maybe more consistently.
Okay.
Ricky.
Okay, thank you again. And so we have only 5 minutes left, or 4, I think, but I would like to have a last round very quick. If you have to say one measure that you would like to see, you say, oh, that's what I wanted. That's what I was looking for. Of course, it's not going to be the solving thing, not the holy grail or anything like that, but something that you would expect to see proposed, applied, a policy or a granting scheme or money funnel somewhere. You can give us one idea.
Real collaboration. For me.
Real collaboration.
Real.
On the microphone, because we're streaming.
Sorry,
yeah.
Collaboration, just real collaboration between all stakeholders. This, I think, in the long run, will pay.
Okay. Difficult, huh?
Because we are in Brussels, I would say I would like to see more science journalists involved in writing grant proposals, in building the lines of support that comes from the European Commission instead of having a top-down approach, because I think this could be a game changer and really answer some of the issues of the professional community.
Thank you, Daniela. Gianpaolo, I see you.
I have a slogan, if you want. One science journalist in every newsroom.
One science journalist in every newsroom. Well, that's a good. Okay, Mohammed, you have the last word.
I think I wish to have kind of a national strategy for science communication and science journalism for every country. I mean, not inside Europe only, but I think globally also.
Globally. Okay, thank you very much to all the 4 of you, and please let's give us a big round of applause. It was really important, and I think you added a lot of insight that we can actually take and integrate in our own recommendation. Michael, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our speakers, and yeah, feel free to join the tables because we'll be asking you to work as well now for our next segment. I'm looking for the clicker.
There.
Yeah.
There.
Ah, there it is. Great. And so for the next set of slides on the activity,